The fire burned hot against Nathan Cole's skin as he pulled himself from the broken shuttle. Metal twisted around him like the bones of some dead animal. Smoke filled his lungs, and he coughed hard, blood coming up with each breath. His uniform was torn and burned in many places. His left arm hung at a bad angle, broken somewhere between his shoulder and elbow. He was alive. He should not have been alive. The shuttle had fallen from the sky like a stone. Nathan remembered the alarm screaming, the pilot yelling something about the engines, and then the world had turned into fire and spinning darkness. When he woke up, he was alone. The pilot was dead. The two other diplomats were dead. Only Nathan Cole, commander of the United Earth Diplomatic Corps, had survived. He crawled away from the burning shuttle and lay on the purple grass of an alien world. The sky above him was orange with 3 small suns hanging low on the horizon. This was Valanthos Prime, the home world of the Vyari Empire. This was enemy territory. Nathan closed his eyes and laughed, though it hurt his broken ribs. He had come here to talk about peace. He had come with papers and proposals and hoped that the 10-year war between humans and Vyari could finally end. Now he was going to die on their planet, alone and broken. He did not die when Nathan opened his eyes again. Tall shapes stood around him. They were Vyari, their bodies like insects but standing upright on 2 legs. Their skin was hard like shells, and those shells changed colors as he watched. Blue to green to purple. They were 8 feet tall, with 4 arms and faces that had no mouths, only large eyes that seemed to look right through him. One of them spoke, though Nathan did not see how. The sound came from somewhere in its chest. "It lives," the Vyari said. "The human lives." Nathan tried to speak, but only blood came out. He felt hands lifting him, 4 hands on each Vyari, and then darkness took him again. He woke in a room made of crystal. The walls glowed with soft blue light that came from within the stone itself. His arm had been set in a strange cast that felt warm against his skin. His ribs no longer hurt when he breathed. The Vyari had healed him, though he did not know why. A door opened in the wall, appearing where there had been no door before. A Vyari entered, this one smaller than the others he had seen. Its shell was a soft gray color that did not change. "You are awake," it said. "Good. The Empress wishes to decide your fate." Nathan sat up slowly. "The Empress?" "Sithara, mother of the Vyari, ruler of 7 star systems, queen of the eternal hive. She will decide if you live or die." Nathan had heard of Empress Sithara. All humans had. She had ruled the Vyari for 300 years. She had ordered the attack on the first human colony that started the war. She was feared throughout human space as a monster, who cared nothing for alien life. He was taken through halls of crystal and light, past hundreds of Vyari who stopped to stare at him. Some made sounds of disgust. Others watched with what might have been curiosity. Nathan kept his head high even though his legs felt weak. He was a commander of Earth. He would not show fear. The throne room was larger than any building Nathan had ever seen. The ceiling disappeared in the shadows far above. The floor was smooth as glass and reflected the thousands of Vyari who filled the space. And at the far end, on a throne that seemed to grow from the floor itself, sat Empress Sithara. She was beautiful and terrible. Her shell was gold, bright as the sun, and it glowed with an inner light. She was larger than any other Vyari, nearly 10 feet tall, and her 4 arms rested on the throne like a queen from an old Earth story. Her eyes, large and black and deep, fixed on Nathan as he was brought before her. "Human," she said, and her voice filled the entire room. "You crashed on my world. You survived what should have killed you. My scientists say there is no reason you should be alive. Yet here you stand." Nathan found his voice. "I am Commander Nathan Cole of the United Earth Diplomatic Corps. I came in peace to discuss ending the war. My shuttle was damaged. I am the only survivor. Peace, the Empress said, and the words sounded strange in her voice. Humans speak of peace while they burn our colonies. They speak of peace while our children die in the dark between stars. What do you know of peace, little creature? Nathan met her eyes. He did not look away. I know that this war has killed millions on both sides. I know that it has gone on too long. I know that someone has to be brave enough to try something different. The Empress was silent for a long moment. Around the room, the Vyari shifted and whispered among themselves. Nathan could feel their hate like heat from a fire. He was human. He was the enemy. Every one of them wanted him dead. Brave, the Empress finally said. Or foolish? With your kind, it is hard to tell the difference. She raised one golden hand and the room went silent. I will not kill you, human. Death would be too easy for you, and it would waste an opportunity. You will serve in my palace. You will work among my people. You will learn what it means to be Vyari, and perhaps you will understand why we fight. Nathan did not know what to say. He had expected death. This was something else. Where will I serve? He asked. The Empress smiled, though she had no mouth. Nathan could see it in her eyes. In the nursery, she said. Among our eggs and our children. The lowest work for the lowest creature. There you will stay until I decide otherwise. The Vyari in the room made sounds that Nathan realized was laughter. To them, this was a joke. A human warrior caring for children. It was meant to break his spirit. Nathan bowed his head. As you wish, Empress. They took him to the nursery that same day. It was a warm place, filled with soft light and the sound of strange music. Hundreds of eggs lay in rows on heated beds, their shells glowing faintly in colors of pink and gold and green. Vyari nurses moved between them, checking each one, singing in their wordless way. Nathan was given simple clothes and a place to sleep in the corner. His job was to clean, to carry water, to do whatever the nurses told him to do. He was beneath their notice, a creature to be used and ignored. But Nathan worked without complaint. He cleaned. He carried. He watched and learned. The eggs were precious to the Vyari, more precious than gold or power or victory in war. Each one was a promise of the future. Each one was hoped on. It was on his third night in the nursery that Nathan found her. She was in the far corner, away from the warm lights and the singing nurses. A single egg, smaller than the others. Its shell mottled with gray spots instead of bright colors. One of the nurses saw Nathan looking at it. That one is defective, she said, her voice full of scorn. It will not hatch. We wait for it to die so we may remove it. Nathan looked at the small egg, alone in the dark. He thought of his daughter back on Earth, a girl with bright eyes who he might never see again. He thought of all the things he had lost in this war. That night, when the nurses slept, Nathan went to the corner. He picked up the small egg and held it against his chest. It was cool to the touch. Dying, just as they said. Not yet, Nathan whispered. Not if I can help it. He held the egg close through the night, giving it his warmth, giving it his hope. And somewhere inside that broken shell, something began to stir. 3 months passed in the nursery. Nathan Cole learned the ways of the Vyari, their songs without words, their dances without music. He cleaned the floors and carried water and did all the small jobs that no one else wanted to do. The nurses ignored him most of the time. To them, he was just a human, a creature barely worth noticing. But every night, when darkness fell and the others slept, Nathan would go to the corner where the small egg waited. He would hold it against his chest and talk to it in soft English, telling stories about Earth, about forests and oceans and cities that touched the sky. He did not know if the thing inside could hear him. He did not care. It made him feel less alone. The egg grew warmer each night. The gray spots on its shell began to fade. Nathan told no one. This was his secret, his small piece of hope in a world that had taken everything from him. On the 93rd day, the egg cracked open. Nathan was holding it when it happened. He felt the shell break beneath his fingers, and his heart stopped for just a moment. Then he looked down and saw her for the first time. She was tiny, smaller than a human baby, with a soft purple shell that had not yet hardened. Her eyes were large and golden, and they looked up at Nathan with complete trust. She made a small sound, something between a cry and a song, and Nathan felt tears running down his face. "Hello, little one," he whispered. "Hello." The nurses found them in the morning. They stared at Nathan and the small creature in his arms with eyes full of shock. This was impossible. The egg had been dying. Everyone knew it'd never hatch. Yet here was a living child, weak and small but breathing, looking at the world with curious golden eyes. How? One of the nurses demanded. "How did you do this?" Nathan held the child closer. "I kept her warm. I talked to her. I did not let her give up." The nurses did not know what to do. The child was alive, which meant she belonged to the Vayari. But she had been saved by a human, which made her something strange and new. They sent word to the Empress and waited for instructions. The answer came back quickly. The child would stay in the nursery. The human would continue to care for her. The Empress wished to see what would happen. Nathan named her Hope. It was a simple name, an Earth name, but it felt right. She was his hope in this dark place, his reason to wake up each morning. And as the days turned to weeks and the weeks turned to months, Hope became something more. She became his daughter. Vayari children grew fast, much faster than human children. Within a year, Hope had grown from a tiny larva into something like a young child. She stood on 2 legs, though she walked with a limp from her weak left leg. Her shell had hardened into a beautiful lavender color, lighter than any other Vayari. She was different, and the other children knew it. They avoided her. They called her names that Nathan could not translate, but understood anyway. Defective and broken, and the human's pet. Hope pretended not to hear, but Nathan saw how her colors dimmed when the other children spoke. He saw the hurt in her golden eyes. "Why do they hate me?" Hope asked one night. They were sitting in the corner that had become their home, away from the others. "I did not do anything wrong." Nathan pulled her close. "They do not hate you, little one. They are afraid of you." "Afraid? Why?" "Because you are different. Because you survived when you should not have. Because you are special in ways they do not understand." Hope was quiet for a moment. Her shell shifted through colors, blues and greens and soft pinks, the way it always did when she was thinking hard. "Am I really special?" she asked. Nathan smiled and touched her face gently. "You are the most special person I have ever known." He began to teach her. At first, it was just English, simple words and sounds that seemed strange to her Vayari mouth. But Hope learned quickly, faster than Nathan had expected. Soon she was speaking both languages, switching between them without thinking. She asked questions about everything, about Earth and humans, and why the sky was orange instead of blue. Nathan taught her what he could remember from his daughter's schooling, mathematics and science, and the history of Earth. He told her about the first humans who looked up at the stars and wondered what was there. He told her about the ships that carried people to new worlds, about the hope and fear and courage of those early travelers. "Were you afraid?" Hope asked. "When you came to our world?" Nathan thought about it. "Yes, I was very afraid. But I came anyway, because some things are more important than fear." "What things?" "Peace, understanding, the chance that maybe, if we talked to each other instead of fighting, we could find a better way." Hope tilted her head, a gesture she had learned from watching Nathan. "But the humans and Vayari still fight. The war is still happening. Yes, Nathan said sadly. It is. Why? Nathan did not have a good answer. He had asked himself the same question many times in the dark of night. Why did the war continue? Why did people keep killing each other when everyone was tired of death? He did not know. Sometimes, he said carefully, people fight because they have fought for so long that they forget how to stop. The hate becomes comfortable. The enemy becomes easier to understand than the stranger who might become a friend. Hope was quiet again. Then she looked at Nathan with her golden eyes, so full of trust and love that it made his heart hurt. You are not my enemy, she said. You are my father. Nathan felt the words hit him like a physical blow. Father. She had never called him that before. He had thought of her as his daughter, had loved her as his own, but hearing her say, it made everything real in a way it had not been before. Yes, he said, his voice breaking. I am your father, and you are my daughter. Nothing will ever change that. Words spread through the palace. The human and the defective child, living together in the nursery, speaking two languages, loving each other like family. Some Vayari thought it was disgusting. Others thought it was fascinating. Most just thought it was strange. The Empress heard everything. Her spies were everywhere, watching and listening. She knew about the lessons Nathan taught. She knew about the word father and what it meant. She knew that something was happening in her palace that had never happened before. And still she watched. And still she waited. The war continued in the stars above. Ships burned and soldiers died, and colonies fell to ash. Nathan heard reports sometimes, whispers among the nurses about battles lost and won. His heart broke a little more each time. His people were dying. His world was bleeding, but he had hope. Every day, he had hope. And that made it possible to keep going. Father, Hope said one evening as they watched the three suns set through the crystal walls, will you ever go back to Earth? Nathan was quiet for a long time. He thought about his home, his real daughter, the life he had left behind. He thought about how much he missed it all. I do not know, he finally said. Maybe someday. If the war ends. Hope reached out and took his hand. Her fingers were longer than human fingers, harder and cooler, but the gesture was purely human. Something she had learned from him. If you go, she said, will you take me with you? Nathan squeezed her hand. If I go anywhere, little one, you will be right beside me. I promise. Hope's colors brightened into warm yellows and oranges, the Vayari sign of happiness. She leaned against Nathan's shoulder, and together they watched the suns disappear below the horizon. They did not know that everything was about to change. They did not know that the Empress had finally made her decision. They did not know that the truth was coming, a truth that would shake the foundations of two civilizations. For now, they were just a father and his daughter, watching the sunset on an alien world, holding on to each other in a universe that had tried so hard to keep them apart, and that was enough. 2 years had passed since Nathan Cole crashed on Volanthos Prime. 2 years of working in the nursery, of teaching hope, of building a life in a place where he did not belong. He had almost forgotten what it felt like to be free. The palace had become his prison and his home. Then the summons came. A guard appeared at the nursery door, tall and armored in black shell plates. His colors were dark and serious, the mark of a soldier. Human, he said, the Empress calls for you. Come now. Nathan looked at Hope, who had grown tall enough now to reach his shoulder. Her lavender shell was bright with worry, her golden eyes wide with fear. It will be all right, Nathan said softly. Wait here. I will come back. Promise? I promise. He followed the guard through the crystal halls, past rooms he had never seen, upstairs that seemed to go on forever. The palace was larger than he had realized, a maze of light and stone that could hold 1,000,000 Veari. He was nothing here, a tiny creature in a world built for giants. The throne room was different than he remembered. The last time he had been here, it was full of Veari, their colors flashing with anger and hate. Now it was empty, except for the Empress herself. She sat on her golden throne, but something about her seemed smaller, older, tired in a way that Nathan had not noticed before. "Come closer, human," she said. Her voice was softer than he remembered. Nathan walked until he stood at the base of the throne. He kept his head high, his back straight. He was still a commander of Earth, even if he had spent 2 years cleaning floors. "You wish to see me, Empress?" Sithara was quiet for a long moment. Her golden shell still glowed, but the light seemed dimmer now. Her eyes, those deep black pools, studied Nathan like he was a puzzle she was trying to solve. "Do you know why I let you live?" she asked. Nathan shook his head. "No, Empress. I have wondered many times. I was curious," she said simply. "In 300 years, I have seen many humans. Most of them screamed and begged when they faced death. You did not. You looked at me and spoke of peace, even when you knew you were going to die. I wanted to understand what made you different. And have you understood?" The Empress made a sound that might have been a laugh. "No, you are still a mystery to me, Nathan Cole. You grow more mysterious every day." She rose from her throne and walked down the steps toward him. Each step was slow and careful, like it cost her effort. When she stood before him, Nathan realized something that shocked him. She was old. Not just in years, but in her body. The Empress of the Veari was dying. "The egg you saved," she said quietly. "Do you know where it came from?" Nathan's heart began to beat faster. "The nurses said it was defective. They said it would not hatch. That is not what I asked." Nathan swallowed hard. "No, Empress. I do not know where it came from." Sithra's eyes met his. In them, Nathan saw something he had never expected to see in the face of his enemy. He saw grief. He saw love. He saw a mother's pain. "The egg was mine," she said. The words hung in the air between them. Nathan could not breathe. His mind raced through everything he knew, everything he had seen, trying to make sense of what she had just told him. "Yours?" he whispered. "She was my youngest clutch. My last child. Born weak because I am old. Too old to bear strong children any longer." The Empress's voice trembled slightly. "I have given birth to thousands of children in my life. Most of them are dead now, killed in this war that never ends. I thought I had grown used to loss. I thought my heart had become stone." She reached out one golden hand and touched Nathan's face. Her touch was cool and gentle. "When she hatched weak and broken, my advisors told me to let her die. They said it would be a mercy. They said a defective princess would bring shame to the throne. And I was so tired, Nathan Cole, so tired of watching my children die. I agreed because I had forgotten how to hope." Tears were running down Nathan's face now. He could not stop them. "You gave her back to me," the Empress continued. "You, a human, my enemy, showed more love to my daughter than I did. You held her through the cold nights. You taught her to speak and to think and to believe in herself. You called her hope because that is what she became." Nathan's voice was barely a whisper. "I did not know. I never knew she was yours. Would it have changed anything?" He thought about the question carefully. He thought about the small egg in his arms, the feeling of her warmth, the sound of her first cry. He thought about teaching her to walk, about drying her tears when the other children were cruel. "No," he said finally. "It would not have changed anything. She was alone and needed someone. I could not walk away from that." The Empress smiled, though she had no mouth. Nathan could see it in her eyes, in the way her color shifted to warm gold. That is why I have watched you for 2 years. That is why I let you stay with her. I wanted to see if your kindness was real or just a trick. I wanted to know if humans were capable of the love we believe they lack. And what have you decided? Sithara stepped back and spread all 4 of her arms wide. For a moment, she looked young again, powerful and certain. I have decided that I was wrong about your species. Perhaps not about all of them. But about you, Nathan Cole, I was very wrong. She turned and walked back up the steps to her throne. When she sat down, she looked at Nathan with eyes full of purpose. The peace talks have failed again. Your people and mine have decided to continue killing each other. The diplomats argue and the soldiers die and nothing changes. She leaned forward. But I am tired of war. I am tired of burying my children. I want to try something different. What do you mean? I am going to call for a new summit. Not diplomats this time, but leaders. The highest representatives of both our peoples. And you, Nathan Cole, will stand at my side when I do. Nathan felt his heart racing. Empress, I am no one. I am just a commander who crashed on your world. They will not listen to me. They will listen, Sithara said firmly, because you will not be alone. My daughter will stand with you. The princes that you saved, the child that you raised, will tell both our peoples what you have done. She will show them that humans and Vayari can be more than enemies. Nathan thought of hope, of her golden eyes and her lavender shell, of the way she looked at him like he hung the stars in the sky. She is still young, he said. This is a heavy burden for a child. She is stronger than you know. You made her strong. The Empress's voice softened. I have watched her grow, Nathan Cole. I have watched her from the shadows like a coward, afraid to face the daughter I abandoned. She is remarkable. She has your courage and your kindness. She is the best of both our worlds. Nathan was silent for a long moment. The weight of what the Empress was asking pressed down on him like a physical thing. This was bigger than him, bigger than hope, bigger than anything he had ever imagined. But he thought about the war. He thought about all the death and the hate and the endless cycle of revenge. He thought about his daughter on Earth, growing up in a universe at war. He thought about Hope's question, why do they keep fighting? Maybe this was the answer. Maybe this was how it stopped. I will do it, Nathan said. For Hope, for both our peoples. I will do whatever you ask. The Empress nodded slowly. Then go to her. Tell her who she really is. Tell her that her mother is sorry. And tell her that we have work to do. Nathan bowed deeply and turned to leave. At the door, he stopped and looked back. Empress? Yes, thank you. For letting me keep her. For letting me be her father. Sithra's colors shifted through a rainbow of emotions. Thank you, Nathan Cole, for showing an old queen that she still had something to learn. Nathan walked back to the nursery with his heart full of fear and hope and love. He did not know what the future held. He did not know if their plan would work or fail. But he knew one thing for certain. He had to tell his daughter the truth. And then, together, they would try to change the world. The great hall of the Vayari Palace had never held so many bodies. On one side stood humans, their uniforms dark blue and gray, their faces tight with fear they tried to hide. On the other side stood Vayari, their shells flashing colors of anger and distrust. In the middle was a round table made of clear crystal, where no one sat and no one would until both sides agreed to peace. Nathan Cole stood at the edge of the human side, wearing his old commander uniform for the first time in 2 years. It was tight in some places and loose in others. His body had changed during his time on Volantus Prime. He had changed in ways that went deeper than flesh. Ambassador Patricia Lane stood next to him. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. When Nathan had first appeared at the summit, She had stared at him like he was a ghost. "Commander Cole," she said quietly while the delegates argued. "We thought you were dead. Everyone thought you were dead." "I almost was," Nathan replied. "The Vyari saved me, and then kept you prisoner for 2 years." Nathan shook his head slowly. "It was not like that. Not exactly. They gave me a job. They gave me a purpose. They gave me—" He paused, looking for the right words. "They gave me a daughter." Ambassador Lane's eyes went wide. "A daughter? What do you mean?" Before Nathan could answer, the doors at the far end of the hall opened. The room fell silent as Empress Sithara entered, her golden shell glowing bright against the crystal walls. Behind her walked a smaller figure, lavender and graceful despite the slight limp in her step. Hope. Nathan felt his heart swell with pride. She looked beautiful in her formal robes, her golden eyes scanning the crowd without fear. She had grown so much since the night he first held her. She was still young by Vyari standards, but there was a strength in her that went beyond age. The Empress took her place at one end of the table. The human delegates moved to the other end. The space between them felt as wide as the universe. "We are here," the Empress began, her voice filling the hall, "because war has made us all tired. We are here because there must be another way. I have invited you to my world in good faith. I ask that you listen with open minds." The human speaker was Admiral Kevin Barnes, a man with a scarred face and hands that had seen too many battles. He stood stiff and angry, his eyes moving between the Empress and Hope. "We have tried peace talks before," he said coldly. "Your people have broken every agreement we ever made. Why should this time be different?" "Because this time," the Empress said, "we have proof that peace is possible." She raised one golden hand and gestured toward Hope. "Come, child. Tell them what you know." Hope walked forward until she stood in the center of the hall, between the two sides. Every eye in the room was on her. Nathan could see her colors shifting, blue and green with nervousness, but her voice was steady when she spoke. "My name is Velinara," she said in perfect English. "I am a princess of the Vyari Empire. I am the daughter of Empress Sithara." She paused and looked directly at Nathan. "And I am also the daughter of Commander Nathan Cole." The silence that followed was complete. No one moved. No one breathed. "That is impossible," Admiral Barnes finally said. "Humans and Vyari cannot have children together. Our species are too different." "I did not say he made me," Hope replied calmly. "I said he is my father. There is a difference." She began to walk slowly, her lavender shell catching the light as she moved. "I was born weak. My shell was soft. My leg did not work right. Among my people, such children are left to die. It is considered a mercy." Her voice carried no bitterness, only truth. "The nurses in the palace nursery put me in a dark corner and waited for my egg to go cold." Nathan watched his daughter speak and felt tears building behind his eyes. She was so brave, so strong, but someone did not let me die, Hope continued. A human man, alone and far from home, held my egg against his chest night after night. He gave me his warmth. He talked to me in a language I did not yet understand. He refused to let me give up. She stopped walking and stood directly before the human delegation. He taught me to walk. He taught me to speak. He taught me mathematics and history and why the stars shine. When the other children called me broken and defective, he told me I was special. When I asked why he cared for me, he said that some things matter more than logic. Hope turned to face Nathan. Her golden eyes were bright with emotion. "He is my father. Not by blood, but by choice. And that choice is the most powerful thing I have ever known." The hall remained silent, but something had changed. Nathan could feel it. The anger in the room was still there, but it was mixed with something else now. Confusion, wonder, maybe even hope. Admiral Barnes stepped forward. This is a touching story, Princess. But stories do not end wars. Your people have killed millions of ours. We have killed millions of yours. How does one human caring for one Viari child change any of that? Hope met his eyes without fear. It changes everything, Admiral. Because it proves that hate is not built into our nature. It proves that when given the choice between cruelty and kindness, between war and peace, some of us will choose to love instead of hate. She spread her arms wide, a gesture she had learned from Nathan. Look at me. I am proof that your species and mine can live together. I am proof that we can be family. Not because our blood is the same, but because we choose to care for each other. That is what makes family real. Ambassador Lane spoke up, her voice thoughtful. Commander Cole, is everything she says true? Did you really save her life? Did you really raise her as your own child? Nathan walked forward until he stood beside Hope. He took her hand, human fingers intertwining with Viari ones. Every word, he said. When I crashed here, I expected to die. I expected hatred and pain and nothing else. Instead, I found this brave little egg in a dark corner, and everything changed. He looked at his daughter with all the love he felt. She saved me as much as I saved her. She gave me a reason to live when I had lost everything. He turned to face both delegations. I have seen your war from both sides now. I have seen the pain and the loss and the fear. And I have seen something else too. I have seen that underneath all the fighting, we are not so different. We love our children. We grieve our dead. We hope for a better future. Nathan squeezed Hope's hand. My daughter asked me once why our peoples keep fighting. I did not have a good answer then, but I have one now. He took a deep breath. We fight because we are afraid. We fight because it is easier to kill than to understand. We fight because no one has shown us another way. He looked at the Empress, then at the human delegates, then at Hope. Let this be another way. Let this child, this princess who calls a human her father, be the beginning of something new. Not because hate is impossible, but because love is stronger. Hope stepped forward, her color shifting to bright gold. Father, she said, her voice carrying through the silent hall. Will you stand with me? Nathan felt the weight of the moment, the eyes of two civilizations watching him. He thought about everything he had lost and everything he had found. He thought about the war and the death and the chance, just a small chance, that something better was possible. He raised Hope's hand with his, lifting their joined fingers high above their heads. Always, he said, I will always stand with you. The silence stretched on for what felt like forever. Then, slowly, Ambassador Lane began to clap. Others joined her, first a few humans, then more. The Empress raised all four of her arms in the Viari sign of approval. More Viari followed. It was not peace. Not yet. The road ahead would be long and hard. But something had changed in that hall, something that could not be unchanged. For the first time in 10 years, humans and Viari looked at each other and saw not enemies, but possibilities. And at the center of it all stood a father and his daughter, proving that the strongest force in the universe was not weapons or power or fear. It was love. 5 years had passed since the day Hope called Nathan her father in front of both civilizations. 5 years of slow, careful work. 5 years of building something that had never existed before. The treaty was signed 6 months after the summit. It was not perfect. No treaty ever was. But it stopped the killing. It ended the burning of colonies and the death of soldiers in the dark spaces between stars. For the first time in 15 years, humans and Viari were at peace. Nathan Cole became the first human ambassador to the Viari Empire. It was a title he had never wanted, but one he could not refuse. He was the bridge between two worlds, the man who had lived among the enemy and found family there. People trusted him because they had seen him hold his daughter's hand and promise to stand by her. That image had spread across both civilizations, becoming a symbol of what was possible. Hope grew into a remarkable young woman. She was tall now, nearly as tall as her mother, with her lavender shell shining bright and beautiful. Her limp had gotten better with time, though it never fully healed. She wore it like a badge of honor, proof of where she came from and what she had survived. She became a diplomat herself, working alongside Nathan to build understanding between their peoples. She spoke both languages perfectly, moving between human and Vayari culture with an ease that no one else could match. When negotiations grew tense or old hatreds threatened to rise again, Hope would tell her story. She would remind everyone that she was living proof that the impossible was possible. There were hard times. Not everyone accepted the peace. On the human side, groups called Nathan a traitor for living among the Vayari. They said he had forgotten his own kind, that he had chosen aliens over his species. On the Vayari side, nobles whispered that Hope was impure, tainted by human influence, unfit to call herself a princess. There were assassination attempts. 3 against Nathan, 2 against Hope. Each time they survived. Each time they stood before the public and refused to let hatred win. They want us to be afraid, Hope said after the second attempt on her life. They want us to hide and let the old ways return. We will not give them that satisfaction. Nathan had never been more proud of her. The Empress grew weaker as the years passed. Her golden shell lost some of its glow. Her movements became slower, more careful. But her mind remained sharp, and her will remained strong. She watched her daughter become everything she had hoped for, and more. On the 5th anniversary of the treaty, a ceremony was held in the same great hall where everything had begun. Humans and Vayari filled the space together, standing side by side instead of facing each other as enemies. The crystal walls had been decorated with symbols from both cultures, a mixing of traditions that would have been unthinkable 5 years before. Nathan stood at the front of the hall, wearing a new uniform that combined human and Vayari designs. Beside him stood Hope, dressed in formal robes that honored both her heritages. The Empress sat on her throne, watching with eyes that held centuries of memory. 5 years ago, the Empress began, her voice still powerful despite her age. I stood in this hall and watched something I never thought I would see. I watched a human man and a Vayari child show 2 warring civilizations that love does not know species or politics. I watched them change the universe with nothing more than the bond between father and daughter. She rose slowly from her throne and walked down the steps. Each movement was difficult, but she refused help. When she reached the floor, she stood before Nathan and Hope. Today, we celebrate what they have built. Not just peace, though that is precious beyond measure. We celebrate proof that our peoples can live together, work together, become family together. The Empress reached out and took both their hands, one human and one Vayari, holding them in her golden grip. Commander Nathan Cole saved my daughter when I could not. He loved her when I had forgotten how. He showed me that the enemy I had fought for so long was not a monster, but a being capable of kindness and sacrifice and faith. Her voice trembled slightly. He gave me back my hope. He gave me back my child. Nathan felt tears on his cheeks. Beside him, Hope's colors were shifting through every shade of gold, the deepest expression of joy in Vayari culture. Mother, Hope said softly, I did not know what family meant when I was young. I only knew that there was a man who held me and cared for me and never let me feel alone. He taught me that family is not about blood or species or where you come from. It is about choosing to love someone and never stopping. She looked at Nathan, her golden eyes shining. You chose me, Father. When no one else wanted me, when I was just a dying egg in a dark corner, you chose me. Everything I am is because of that choice. Nathan's voice was thick with emotion when he spoke. I did not choose you, little one. You chose me. You gave me a reason to live when I had lost everything. You showed me that the universe is bigger than war and hate and fear. You taught me that the most important thing a person can do is love someone completely, without limits, without conditions. He pulled Hope into his arms and held her tight. She was not little anymore, but she still fit perfectly against him, the way she had since the first night he held her egg. I am proud of you, he whispered. So proud. Whatever happens, whatever the future brings, I want you to know that being your father has been the greatest honor of my life. Hope's arms wrapped around him, strong and warm. And being your daughter, she said, has been mine. The hall erupted in applause, both human and VR joining together in a sound of celebration. The Empress smiled, her colors glowing soft gold. Somewhere in the crowd, Nathan saw Ambassador Lane wiping her eyes. Beside her, Admiral Barnes stood at attention, his scarred face showing something that might have been respect. Later that night, after the ceremony was over and the guests had gone, Nathan and Hope sat together on a balcony overlooking the Crystal City. The three suns had set, and the sky was full of stars, thousands of points of light representing thousands of worlds. Father, Hope said quietly, do you ever miss Earth? Nathan thought about the question. He thought about the planet where he was born, the forests and oceans he had told Hope about so many times. He thought about his other daughter, the human one, who he had finally been able to visit 2 years ago. She was grown now, with children of her own. She had welcomed Hope like a sister, their two families joining across the stars. Sometimes, he said, but my home is wherever you are. Earth, Volanthos, anywhere in the universe. As long as we are together, I am home. Hope leaned her head against his shoulder. Her lavender shell was warm against his skin. I used to wonder why you saved me, she said. I used to think there must have been some reason, some logical explanation. But now I understand. There was no reason. You just did it because you could not do anything else. It was who you were. Nathan smiled and looked up at the stars. Humanity has always been like that, he said. We are small and weak compared to so many species in the universe. We live short lives. We make mistakes. We hurt each other in ways that do not make sense. But we also love. We love deeply and completely and without reason. We find family in the strangest places. We refuse to give up even when everything tells us to stop. He put his arm around Hope and pulled her close. That is what makes us human, little one. Not our bodies or our planet or our history. It is our stubborn, impossible, never-ending ability to love. Hope was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice soft but certain. Then I'm human too. Nathan laughed, a warm sound full of joy. Yes, he said. You are. You always have been. They sat together in the starlight, father and daughter, two beings from different worlds who had become family. Behind them, the crystal palace glowed with soft light. Above them, the universe stretched out infinite and mysterious. The war was over. The peace held. And in a quiet corner of the cosmos, a human and his alien daughter watched the stars and knew that they had changed everything, not with weapons or power or conquest. With love, that was humanity's greatest strength. That was what made them special. In a universe full of darkness, they had the courage to choose light. In a world full of enemies, they had the wisdom to choose family. And that made all the difference. The end.